Everybody, welcome back to Titan Faith. And today, let's talk about a word that is tossed around in society a lot nowadays, the word judgment, and how it's being used towards Christians as a gotcha to stop any kind of information that they give or holding people accountable. And we're going to talk about the difference between judgment, information, and accountability. And let's start with the verse that most people refer to, Matthew 7:1-5. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say, let me take the speck of dust out of your eye, brother, with a plank in yours? First, take the plank out of your own eye, then you will see clearly to remove the speck out of your brother's eye. This is simply talking about, whenever it's talking about judgment, is when you go up to somebody and you present yourself in a way that you are better than them, when you really aren't. None of us are. We are all on an equal playing field, and we are all sinners who have to accept Christ into our lives to be able to reach God. And that is clearly mandated, and it's clearly stated that way, because that we are hypocrites if we act like we are better than that person. In the eyes of God, lying is no worse or better of a sin than murdering. They are the same thing. They're an affront to God, and we directly go against God in that way. This is saying that you cannot go to somebody and present yourself as better than them or as their judge, saying, because you did this, this is what's going to happen. No, that's not it. You can't say that. That's not how that goes. Christ gave his life to forgive that sin. Now let's talk about the idea of truth and why this is very important when it comes to informing somebody. Ephesians 4:15 says, but speaking the truth in love may grow up into him in all things, which is the head, even Christ. 1 John 3:18 says, my little children, let us not love in word, neither in tongue, but in deed and truth. John 8:32 says, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. 1 Corinthians 13:6 says, do not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoice in truth. And what I mean by truth is whenever in all these verses are simply describing that we share with people the truth of the scriptures, because we have to do that. That is what we are called to do. That is how we spread the gospel. We have to have people to understand what the truth of the scriptures are so they can know when they are in sin. They can know when they are committing sin, and they know when to repent. Because if they don't know, then how are they going to be able to do any of that? And that is something that we have to present to them. But you do it in a way of humility. And that is the difference between judgment and information/accountability. Humility versus pride. When you judge somebody, you are doing it from a prideful sense. And God calls pride, and pride was literally the first sin ever committed by Satan himself, when he thought he could be God. We are not God, but we have the humility when we do approach somebody in that sense to be able to. Now let's talk about accountability, because God calls us to hold each other accountable and call each other out. Galatians 6:1, brothers, if anyone is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Keep watch yourself, lest ye too be tempted. 1 Timothy 5:20 says, as for the person who persists in sin, rebuke them in the presence of all, so that the rest may stand in fear. 2 Timothy 4:2 says, preach the word, be ready in season and out of season. Reprove, rebuke, and exhort with complete patience and teaching. 1 Peter 3:15, but in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy. Always be prepared to make a defense to any who asks for a reason for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and respect. All of those verses tell us to keep each other accountable as Christians, brothers and sisters, but also to those who may not know Christ yet. We have to explain to them sometimes, hey, this is why this is wrong. And everybody says, and one of the biggest things is people talking about, well, people have come to me and said, I'm going to burn in hell because I do this. While that is a very aggressive statement, And I personally don't like looking at it that way, because that is a prideful sense to come in from that way. The reality is, without Christ in our life, our destination is eternal damnation. And that is the unfortunate truth. But we need to share that truth. Just because it's something that is not something that we want to think about doesn't mean it's something that doesn't need to be said. And whenever we talk about accountability and holding each other accountable, we have to remember doing it in gentleness and respect. That is the difference. We're not going up to our brothers and our peers and screaming at them, telling them everything they're doing is wrong. We go to them in a sense of respect, but also, again, a sense of humility, gentleness. We have to go just as equally balanced in truth as we are with grace. We have to bring that truth with grace, because that is the way that the Lord calls us to do it. We don't scream at them, we don't yell at them, but we do have to hold them accountable. Luke 17:3-4 says, "Pay attention to yourselves. If your brother sins, rebuke him, and he repents. If he repents, forgive him. And if he sins against you 7 times in the day, and turns to you 7 times, saying, 'I repent,' you must forgive him." We have to also have the humility to forgive people for all these transgressions. And now for the final part of this, be wary of false teachings. Matthew 7:15-20, which is just a few verses after the judgment. "Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, by their fruit, you will recognize them." People are giving these false senses of, well, love equals acceptance, and that is not the truth. Love does not equal acceptance. And that also doesn't mean that we shouldn't call people out as well. Well, you can't judge people. You can't do this. You can't do that. You're right. We can't judge people, but we can hold people accountable. There is a difference there, and you have to understand it in the scriptures to be able to understand it and how to handle it. Judgment comes with pride. Accountability comes with humility. Remember that, and we will talk more about this idea of love equaling acceptance at a later date, and how that is just a false teaching in this world, and it's not the case. Love equals truth and grace, not acceptance. Anyway, guys, I hope you have a wonderful and blessed day, and I hope this video helped. God bless.